Good evening, everybody. It's Cutler here in the Let's Talk to Cutler broadcast, the Let's Talk to Cutler program. It's March 23rd. I'm extremely excited because today marks 1 year that I've been celebrating and trying to inspire people. Hopefully, I've been motivating people. It's been a year of ups and downs, ins and outs, and all kinds of vicissitudes of life. So we're going to talk about all of that, but we are going to talk about celebrating. And I have one of my good friends, gospel recording icon, who's going to help me with my celebration. But I tell you what, we're going to do that as soon as I come back. All right? I'll be right back.
Let's talk to God. One more thing, like, subscribe and share. Come on, let's talk to God. Woo!
Well, I'm back and I'm trying to keep calm because the way I was dancing and jumping behind that opening, I love it. It makes me excited every time I hear it. You all know how I do. Every Tuesday and Thursday, I'm here only for 1,800 seconds because I want to make every second significant. I want to make every minute matter, make every moment meaningful. So only 1,800 seconds, that's what I do. Hopefully by the time we leave, you're more inspired and you feel better than you did when you came. This has been an amazing year. And of course, you all know every Tuesday and Thursday, we're reading from this book right now. We're reading from Billboards to Better, 366 daily sources of motivation and inspiration along the highway of life. Billboards to Better. Now, listen, you don't need it to join the conversation, but just run on over to Amazon.com and get it. And if you don't want to go there, you can go to my website, www.gbcutler, and pick the book up. I am thrilled. Let me just see. Listen, you all do me a favor. If this is your first time visiting my channel, do me a favor. Go ahead and make sure that you subscribe. And once you subscribe, make sure that you hit the notification bell. The notification just lets you know whenever I've uploaded new content and lets you know whenever I've gone live. And do a thumbs up as you're joining the conversation this evening. Make sure, for goodness sakes, that you share. And do a thumbs up because the thumbs up simply says to YouTube that I like the content that this guy is sharing. But more importantly, it says to me that you're encouraged by our conversation. So I want to thank you so much. Those of you who have been with me for the long haul, thank you so much for whatever space you've allowed me to share, whether it's your living room, your dining room, your kitchen, your front porch, your backyard, your car, whatever space it is. I am humbled. Because my mom always says to me, nobody has to treat you nice. So be thankful whenever they do. So I want to thank you all so much for joining me. And again, so I want you all to help me. I'm celebrating. So I want you to go ahead and get those thumbs up. Make sure that you've shared because we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. I just may go off the charts tonight. I may just go off script, I just may go off. How about that? But I believe in celebrating. And I want to say to you all just from a moment of inspiration, I often talk about understanding the gifts that you possess, the arsenal that you bring, and understand that it is not an ego when you celebrate you. It is not egotistical when you recognize the gifts that God has given you. As a matter of fact, I tend to think that it is an insult to God when we fail to acknowledge the things that he has given us. So learn to celebrate all of who you are. Learn to celebrate all of your experiences. Learn to celebrate everything that you see when you stand in the mirror. That doesn't mean that we've dotted every I. Doesn't mean that we've crossed every T because none of us has. But it means that we recognize the value that is within us. And one of the things I hope that I've been doing is to help you see that we all have value. Now, what I want to do in just a moment, I want to make sure that I shout out our LTTC VIPs. You know, the LTTC VIPs are the first people who show up in the chat room. You all make sure that you share this evening. And I'm going to tell you all, you're going to see so many people in the chat room. I want you all chatting it up because this is my 1 year here on the Let's Talk to Cutler broadcast. I'm not going to detain the hour. What I'm going to do is bring in my special guest. But I want to say this to you all. I want to say thank you. Thank you to what I call the passengers who are riding along the highway of life with me. You know, my goal is to make sure that as we are on our way to better, that we don't leave anybody, that our car becomes the most crowded car on the highway. And then when it becomes overcrowded, we're going to start a caravan. All right, that's how we're going to do this. But I want to thank those of you, my family members, my friends, the fellow passengers, the fellow book club members. Thank all of you. And I also want to say a special thank you to the producers, to my good friends, Devin and Juan, thank you. I could not have done this without you. It started as a concept. It started as an idea. And then there were so many special guests. I mean, so you all joined from an audience perspective, but to think of all of the special guests who have been with me as we have celebrated, I'm overwhelmed. And that's what we really started with, this book that was called When I'm Overwhelmed. But let me just shout them out for a moment. My mother, Judge Penny. So I'm just going to run down the list of people who have been special guests. Judge Penny from Georgia, Judge Huff from Texas, Judge Breland from New Jersey, Judge Oliver from Georgia, and then there was Jack. I'm walking through the years, so just give me 30 seconds. Then I'm going to bring in our special guest. But then there was Jackie Steele, Pastors Marvin and Vita McCoy, Denzel Williams, Javante Wheeler, Paul Heflin, Morris and Deborah Hurd. Did you all remember these people? If you remember them, just put in the chat. Oh yeah, I remember. All right, then Dr. Tanisha McCannon, Bobby Dunmore, Cherie Griffin, Chef Chet Bennett, the one who gave away the salon, Steve Bullock, DeAndre Aubrey, Bishop-elect Kevin Bond out of New York, Percy Henry. Then we did roundup for some of you all who were just my special guests. Won't even remember that. There was Quanika Smith and DeWitt King, Steve Cutler, Lene Miller, Vicky Turner. So many of you all. I want to say thank you because it has been a special year. And then one of my guests has decided to return today to help me celebrate this 1-year milestone. He has appeared twice on the program, and I am so thankful to be able to call him my friend. Would you all please welcome to this platform with me this evening my very good friend, Dr. Earnest Pugh. Pugh, how are you, sir?
I'm good, man. Happy anniversary.
Thank you. You've been here twice, so you are the you're the repeat guest, the repeat friend. So thank you so much for being with me.
It's my honor.
Let me ask you this: Do you remember? Do you remember the first time you came on the show? I'm just sort of curious. You came on the show and you sang so amazingly well until if there was a sound system anywhere near you, I'm sure you just sang it off the charts.
Listen, I remember Devin and them doing what they had to do. They claimed they were struggling, but I was like, this is a major broadcast here. I remember the humble beginnings, but you do everything with such excellence until it's just very little effort that's needed. I still struggled with my social media trying to come online with everything, but I mean, you did it so effortless, and so it kind of upped the ante for everybody. So you motivated me to jump on social media. I was not as courageous as you. I'll say that.
Oh well, thank you, thank you, my friend. I did the best I could, and hopefully I brought a few people along with me. You know, man, we struggled. I struggled at the beginning of this, and I think I wasn't the only one. But when we first started, some of the passengers will remember that it was just a concept. It was just an idea, and I reached back then just to pull up the first book. We were talking about when I'm overwhelmed. We started in the midst of this pandemic.
That's right.
And everything was going crazy, and people. It was so intense. Do you remember that?
Reading was the best thing that we could do to really stay sane, because I don't know how the restrictions were there in the DMV, but here we could not. We had to have permission to leave my neighborhood if you were not going to the grocery store. So what I got tired of doing a lot of times was TV. The book helped me shut out all the world, all the news about the COVID, and I wound up probably reading maybe 3 of your books.
Yeah. Over this pandemic, that's exactly what we did. We read that book. We read all around. I didn't even think I was just I usually don't turn my face around, but then we read this book.
Yes, I think so. It was those one I bought. I got that off. I got that from you because you autographed that one.
Yeah, that was when my foot was broken. Remember?
Yes.
I think you came in town. Yeah, my foot was broken. But man, what?
They're the type of books that you kind of want to read them over and over and over again. It's kind of like the word. The word comes by hearing, and faith comes by hearing and hearing. The more you read it, you get a different, spin on it every time.
I hope so. And I actually, after that first book, When I'm Overwhelmed, I just wasn't going to do anything. And it was the fellow passengers and the listeners and the audience who said, "No, Cutler, keep on going.
You gotta keep going.
You got to keep doing something." And then in the middle of the pandemic, I wrote my 7th book. I wrote the 7th book, and as you know, it's the one that has a whole lot of quotes. But we'll get to the quotes in just a second. So, if the reading helped you, I have to say the music helped me. And being able to just reach out, man, and connect with good friends and family members. And you were one of the first people to respond when I said, "Pugh, I'm just going to put this together, and would you help me out?" You said, "Let me know when you want me to come on." And but what I realized, Pugh, people were asking you to appear on so many platforms, so many places, and for you to take the time to show up on your friend's channel, on your friend's station. I'm not saying that other folk aren't friends, but I know I'm a friend. But for you to show up like that, man,
presence, it's always so I always leave, better than I come into the conversation. Not just, and I don't just know Dr. Cutler, professor of law at Howard University. I know the preacher, the teacher, the friend. I know the person when my mom passed. The first person probably on the phone outside of my family members was Brad Cutler. Wow. And so every time we come together, man, I know you have no idea how much you pour in. You pour in a lot. It just flows like water. And I think it's because of the authenticity as well as the history.
I appreciate that. Well, what a year it's been. I want to, speaking of what a year has been, I want to take you back just a moment, because if you don't remember the song that you sang when you first came on this platform, you all make sure that you show him some love. And I don't think I shouted out the LTC VIPs this evening, but just in way of who they are, Sonia Bailey down in Atlanta, Linda Martin in the Georgia area, and then my mom. They were some of the first people to
I read Mom is watching.
Yeah, man, she's on social media and doing her thing. But it is an amazing, Ernest, it is an amazing group who support the Let's Talk to Cutler program. But what I want to do is take you back down memory lane for just a moment. And I want to remind you of what you sang the very first time you showed up. Let's see if I can do this. Here we go. Let's do this.
Just lift this in your spirit tonight, because things could be a whole lot worse. And the song just says, all I have needed, thy hand has provided. Great is thy faithfulness, thy mercy and love. Summer and the winter, springtime and the harvest, the sun, the moon, and the stars in their courses. Oh, up above, they join with all nature and manifold witness to thy great faithfulness, thy mercy and love. Great is thy faithfulness. Great is thy faithfulness. For every time I wake up in the morning, new mercy I see. And all I have needed, thy hand has provided. So I sing, great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. Yeah. Pray for me.
Earnest Pugh. Earnest Pugh. Wow.
Wow.
Pugh, do you remember that? Man, let me tell you something. I mean, and you were just singing and singing, but when the pandemic started, that's when we were creating those backdrops, trying those virtual spaces.
And it changed my hairstyle over and over and over again.
Right. But let me tell you why I appreciate you and your colleagues so much. Those of you in the industry, man, you all out of your private spaces, out of your home, still continue to try to provide service and try to provide ministry to the world. So even if it meant sort of creating those virtual backgrounds, you all were determined that you were still going to do ministry. You were determined that you were going to render a service. You were determined that you were going to encourage people, motivate people. When I tell you, Pugh, you sang the life out of that song. You all, I hope you enjoyed that. Maybe if you all will put notes in the chat, maybe I can convince him to sing something before he leaves this platform.
Man, we got it. You know what? In bad times, people need good news. And so those of us who shoulder the weight and the gravity of affecting the flow of worship, you don't have a choice. You've got to, in a strange land even, open your mouth and give God praise, because somebody else is going through is much worse than you, as Tremaine Hawkins used to say. You should just be grateful. And so it's an honor to still, and even now, Cutler, I reach out to, maybe 4 churches during the week to render the worship. And so my whole living room is now an editing bay and a green screen. That's all we do day in and day out. And I at first when it happened, I was really, like dumbfounded, because this was supposed to be a whole different type of year. I released a new album.
Right.
But God has shown me through this that this is kingdom expansion. For instance, for New Year's Eve, I was in 7 places, 5 virtual and 2 in person. But had we been in our normal, in-person situation, I would not have been able to travel to 7 places. I don't care how many different private jets you have. And so what people have referred to it as a shift, as a pivot rather, I don't think it's a pivot. I think this is a shift from the old systems. Remember, we transitioned from the cassette tapes to CDs, and then from CDs to digital downloads, and now we're doing streaming. And now everybody, the church has left the building, and we are now, we're now virtual church. And so I believe that this, for the purpose of kingdom expansion, that even though we didn't understand it, that God had a plan to really bring heaven on earth, and he's doing it by way of this medium of social media.
Man, I agree. You know what is so interesting to me? We often say that, God he'll make all things work together for your good. And we just sort of sit around waiting for it to happen.
Yeah.
But this has been an amazing testament of how he has really done that.
He has
it gives us a chance. I was following you that New Year's Eve as you were going around from place to place. And I thought, wow, we would never, as you said, have been able to do that in a real setting. In a real setting, we would not have been able to do that. And when you talk about this whole notion of your gift making room for you, it gives you so many opportunities. Not everything, and you know me so well, so I'll try to, just for a few moments, tell the preacher to stay on 5 in me for just a moment. But Pugh, you do know that this whole notion of your gift making room for you and all of that, and all things working together for your good. And we sat back saying, how in the world is this going to work together for my good? And I think about the whole story of Joshua. I think about the story of Joshua. Before he ever marched around a wall, before they ever blew a trumpet, before a brick ever fell, God said to Joshua, I've already given you the city. And what we find to be strange is that when God tells us something and then he begins to take us through, we get discombobulated because where he takes me doesn't look like what he told me. And so for us, I'm not trying to go there, Pugh, but this whole year, man, it has been so strange because we knew that we would be okay. We hoped that we would be well, and we trusted that we would be okay. But when he started to take us, some of us became discouraged because what he told me didn't look like where he was taking me.
Come on.
And it was up to us to make sure that we reminded people that where he's taking us is okay. And we had to remind people, don't forget what he told you. I know where he's taking us and how he's taking us is looking different, but don't forget what he told Joshua. I've already given you the city.
Ooh, that's a word all by itself.
And I tried not to do it, but it has been, as you said, so many times we have no recourse, and we have no say in the matter when it comes to our gifts.
Yeah.
And we don't get to choose our appointments. We just don't.
Ooh.
And we have to make it work. So whatever gift we have, God gives us the opportunity, and we do not get to choose the appointment. Look at what you would have had to turn down in the real world.
Oh my God. And our bodies won't even hold up for you to get up on 7 stages within a 24-hour period. So the sovereignty of God, you have to just really God even told me, even the timeline. I got on my first Zoom and I said, I don't know. I'm going to tell you why the pandemic came. Y'all know why? I don't know. But God showed me that real faith in me is going through this pandemic and not giving me a timeline of how long it's going to last. You got to trust me, and you got to look to me. You got to continue to read every promise I made you and stand on the warranty and the authority of that. And you won't even focus on the time. In this time, he was like, I'm going to develop your character. I'm getting ready to deal with some kingdom expansion. And so we say that, oh, Lord, have your way, do what you want to do. But when he did this pandemic, were we compliant initially? Initially, I was not. I said, this is the devil kind of come up in this. He had a plan the whole time. And I'm the better for every lesson in the midst of this pandemic. God taught me patience like never before. How to listen. I feel like I'm a subject matter expert in just listening now.
How about that? A subject. Now, I do know, speaking of what has been going on, I know a snippet of what's been going on with you during this pandemic. I mean, most recently, Dr. Pugh, who's my fellow Howard University Bison. Let me just put that out there.
Oh, yeah. You know.
But man, nominated for the Stellars in seven categories. Might I name nominated for Artist of the Year, nominated for Song of the Year, nominated Male Vocalist of the Year, Album of the Year, your Staff Producer of the Year, Contemporary. Let me make sure Contemporary Male Vocalist of the Year, and Praise and Worship CD of the Year. Pew.
Yeah, I want to get excited, but I've been nominated 16 times and never won, right?
Listen, sir.
Nominated and did not win. That should be a category. I told Mr. Johnson, the head of the Stellar Awards, I said, I love you every year. Thank you for recognizing my efforts. And to God be the glory for the wonderful thing. I said, I've been nominated 6 times. So I'm calling you. Have y'all thought of a category called Most Nominated and Did Not Win? Get off my phone. Get off my phone.
Right. He should have just hang up the phone on Pew. But man, you have been busy. In fact, the last time you were on, you showed you talked about the new project that was coming out.
Yes.
And with the project, you talked about the book, all of that.
Yes.
Audience, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Come on, Jesus.
Put it back up again. Put it in front of the screen.
The book came kind of like how your show did. You know what happened, Cutler? I was doing like you, trying to jump on and be courageous. And guess what happened? I went on and I kept getting hit up by a lot of the up and coming new artists. And they were like, how did you manage to be a worship leader at a local church? And then you were also doing the industry. I said, well, I started this thing called differentiating between industry and ministry. And I started taking notes. And before I knew anything, within about maybe a month or so, I was talking to a member of my staff, and they said, Pugh, you've been teaching praise and worship and symposiums for 20 plus years. Why don't you just compile everything together in a book? So I sent my notes over to my friend who was helping me compile the book, Teresa Harrison, and she was like, You have a whole book. I have at least 10 chapters here. I said, on what? She said, on the things that you've been teaching. I'll send you a draft in a week. She sent me a draft, and then I sent it to you. And this is how we came up with abiding in the place of worship, which just takes on really the whole Good Samaritan in Luke chapter 10, how he left the place of worship. And we talk about some people who go are vulnerable and going through perpetual attacks. If you mark it down, all the chaos you're going through, a lot of times you've left your place of worship. So we talk about leaving a place of worship. You open yourself up to vulnerability from the enemy. And so we go in here, practical instructions. We deal with the wounded worshiper, the psychology of the wounded worshiper, leading while bleeding. It's a lot of practical instruction. But it started with just going on social media talking. And then
with just the conversation. And Pugh, they're saying, lots of people in the chat are saying, congratulations, wow, congratulations. Well, it's your winning season, all of that. Where can they find the book?
Amazon.com, but I would prefer that they go to earnestpughonline.com because I can get it faster. Amazon.com, they don't have the Holy Ghost, so they don't move with the speed of lightning like me and Jesus do. So go to earnestpughonline.com, and it comes with also a companion CD. So in half the chapters, I close with a prayer, and then in the other half, I close with a song that's commensurate with what we're talking about. Coincide with what we're talking about in the chapter. So yeah.
So it's earnestpughonline.com. Is it on your regular website, your earnestpugh.com?
They can get it from there as well. It's a link that will take them from Earnest Pugh on earnestpugh.com over to Earnest Pugh Online. If they just click on the book, it'll navigate them over to where it's at. And
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I think so. I'm going to put this up so you all, if you're looking for his website, you can go there and and it will jump you then to the Earnest Pugh Online link to get his book. And yes, we're good friends, but we do read each other's books. We buy each other's materials. And I just want to do this so those of you who are going to look out for his nominations, if you all can vote, make sure that you vote. And listen, you all, this is just a snippet. All right, let me do this for you because some people ask.
God wants to heal you everywhere you hurt, everywhere you hurt. God.
Y'all, I couldn't give you any more than that. Because I don't want the people to shut me down. So let me just say, he does own the rights to that music. I don't, but he does.
Thank you, my friend.
Oh man, you are amazing, and the people saying congratulations, yes, a book and all of that. So
you just threw me a little bit of Psalm 23. If your father passed, and we went through a lot last year, but you just kept standing, and you were so brave, and just the strength that God gave you to preach. But that version and that lens, that perspective that you put on that message, hermeneutically, exegetically, theologically, any other, I don't know, you went back to the era, I don't know if you went back to your original language, to the mountain for God to empower you, but the points that you taught out of that book are so applicable to everything we go through in life. Will you just give them the 3 points so they can be just blessed? Because everybody didn't see Dad's funeral.
Right. They didn't. And as a matter of fact, what is so interesting, one of the producers asked me, because they knew that was, it is ironic, but that was a high and low for me.
Really?
To be able to do that. And you all make sure you join me Thursday. I'm actually going to show us a snippet of me doing the eulogy at my dad's funeral. I'm going to do that. But you're right. I read from 23rd Psalm where David talked about the Lord is my shepherd. And it just simply meant, David didn't say the Lord is a shepherd, but he said the Lord is my shepherd. And David himself, what you're making me do this, David himself was a shepherd, but David said, the Lord is the thing to me that I'm trying to be for others. David himself took care of sheep, and while taking care of the sheep, he said that he's doing for me what I'm learning to do for others. He's taking care of me, and he comforts me and he leads me when, like the sheep who are blind and can't navigate and can't see their way, he's doing for me what I hope to be able to do for some other people. And I pulled that piece out as I spoke about my dad's eulogy, who was a comedian in his own right and just a wonderful guy. And so I honored him in a eulogy and talked about how dad, that he made people smile, he made people laugh. And I'm sure in doing that, he was doing for others what he had hoped someone else would do for him. So that was one snippet. That was just one piece. Yeah. So you all, so tune in Thursday. I am going to share a snippet of that eulogy.
Audio or visual?
Say that again.
You gonna do audio or visual?
I'm going to do visual.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to do visual. I'm going to show part of the link that I showed you. It's because what's interesting, man, is that as I've had highs and lows, and I think about so many of us, the Let's Talk to Cutler fans and followers and supporters, we've had crazy years.
Yeah.
And it has been the year, and as we think about having to have, we've buried people, and we've had to bury people, some in a virtual setting, in a virtual space. So you know what, Ernest, we've owed it to ourselves and to each other. If any time we are to be our brothers and our sisters keepers, this past year has proven that to be true. Yes. With the dynamics of racial challenges and political hurdles and all of that, this pandemic, but this has been not all bad. It hasn't been all bad year, because it could only have been an all bad year if God were not in it.
Ooh,
it could only have been all bad.
He's been right here with us.
He's been right here with us. And I've said to the team here, you all take a look at what you have and hone it and strengthen it and do whatever you can. Make a commitment that when this pandemic is over, you're going to say, I was better for the experience.
Listen.
I was better for the experience. I ended up knowing myself more, because now that I posted somewhere, I think maybe it was last evening, that when we get clarity about who we are, we have set our character free.
Ooh.
And during this pandemic, it has been the perfect time to get to know us.
Yeah.
Because I think maybe the quote was, we imprison our character when we don't have clarity about who we are. But this has been a wonderful time for us to get to know us, get to know the people who are important to us, the people in our lives. And I got to tell you, man, I'm so thankful, because you and others and friends and even the people, the fellow passengers in this car with me, they've been so encouraging. Every Tuesday and Thursday when they show up, and even if it's just hey, good to see you, and my nickname for many of them is Bishop, and they say, Bishop, it's good to see you, or Cutler's good to see you, that's encouraging. All those sorts of things are encouraging. So I know we've laughed this year, we've cried this year, we've smiled this year. What has made you laugh the most during this pandemic?
I am an avid now, all the more so Judge Judy. Because I'm into like escapism, and when we were going through, I got tired of political commercials, and I got to where I just found Judge Judy, and it's 25 years of her. That lady is hilarious, and
she is
escape from my current reality, and that lady is just. I think she was put on this earth to govern and to make sure we obey the laws of the land, but also to make people laugh.
To make them laugh.
Yeah.
Now, Pugh, I'm usually on for just about 1,800 seconds, and I know you all think, Cutler, you're usually on for 1,800 seconds, but I'm going to hang on. I'm going to hang on, and we're going to chat a little bit more. Why? Because we're in celebration mode.
Oh.
So I want to ask you this. I want to ask you this, Pugh. Let me give you a few other quick questions.
Yeah.
Since we talked about what made you laugh, what has made you cry the most this year?
I lost my manager and probably best friend of 20 years, Troy Clark, this year, who succumbed to, wasn't COVID related though, it was just failure of his liver. And we watched him go down probably in about 45 days. And so I just cannot believe that it happened as quick as it did. But the thing that the Lord did to prepare me, I was talking to him on FaceTime his last 2 or 3 days on earth. And I was talking, the family set it up. And so I thought he was waving like, hi, how you doing? And I asked the doctor, I said, can he hear me? The doctor that was sitting there watching. And he said, yeah, he can hear you. He can hear. I said, he's not talking. He said, well, to be honest, and the doctor took over at this point. He said, he's tired at this point. He's not saying hello. He's saying goodbye. And it just, the dagger in the heart, it really didn't really set in until 2 days later on Thanksgiving, the day after Thanksgiving, he actually passed. But that moment was so powerful because he had enough strength. They said he had not been very mobile. He had not done anything until they put him on. And he wanted to come on there to say goodbye. And it just lets me know that even when people are getting ready to take their last breath, they kind of have a conversation with God and they know that their time is winding up. And I think that the thing that gave me peace is he had a chance to leave on his own terms. He made his peace with God, and then he said goodbye to everybody. So minutes later, he said the same goodbye to his mother and to his two sisters. And so that gave me a peace for his release. But that has caused me just about every day to just weep, just because making the adjustment with him not being in the earth to where we could talk every day. We talked in logistics about our travel. We talked about songs. We talked about ministry. But we didn't talk about his health, because he was a selfless person who always wanted to make sure I was good. And so he was the sacrificial lamb in so many words.
Wow. That is amazing. That's amazing. Of course, the viewers tonight, they're saying it's anniversary time. Let's just hang out. Don't you dare stop at 1800.
Because we know he's kicking up gold dust. So why don't we celebrate?
Right. So yeah, we'll hang around for a while. We'll stay here because I do have a few questions that I want to ask you. I tend to look at the quotes, and I want to get to the quotes for just a second. I think what I might do is just read a couple of those quotes and ask you. And I know this is going to put you on the spot, but I'm sort of curious because this book. Let me put in a plug for this book.
Yes,
this book has been amazing in so many ways. They remind me of moments, and they remind me of moments when I was inspired, and it gives me a chance to share those moments. And I get it. Out of 366, one for leap year, of course, out of the 366 quotes that are in there, I get that not every one of them is going to resonate with somebody.
Yeah.
But I am so utterly confident that no one can pick up this book and not find something in there. And that is my hope. So when I have these opportunities to talk about the quotes and share them, a lot of people, as an artist, people want to know, what is the backstory?
Yeah.
So when you saying God wants to heal you, what is the backstory that makes it more than just lyrics or more than just melody, but it connects? So that's what I've been trying to do over the past year here. So what I'm going to do now is just share a couple quotes. On Tuesdays, people, what I used to do is read the quotes from Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday.
Oh.
So I'll throw out one, and then let's chat about it.
Yeah.
And I want to see where you're going with this. And so y'all, he's rubbing his hands, putting his hands together. If you haven't done so, make sure that you like and that you're commenting and that you subscribe and that you share this channel. Thank you all again. Those of you who are on tonight, I cannot say thank you enough. I am really humbled that you all will share this space and this time and this platform. It warms my heart. It really, really does, because my goal is to make sure that through this pandemic, as we are driving through these hurdles and these potholes, and some of us are making wrong turns and we're wondering if we're going to get lost. But I always say, when we're on the highway, you can't take such a wrong turn where there is no road to recovery. And so that's one of the things that we've been doing. So when we show up every Tuesday and Thursday, for some of us, it's just a roadmap to recovery. And for others, it's just reading the boards to say, all right, how can I be just a little bit better after the broadcast than I was before the broadcast? All right. So Dr. Pugh, coming your way with this quote, man. March 21st quote, which was Sunday. It says, just give me your visceral reaction. Don't expect God to be agreeable if you're not going to be available. Don't expect God to be agreeable if you are not going to be available.
I mean, I think God is always speaking to us, but it's incumbent upon us to always be open and receptive and listening for the voice of God.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, man. And what's interesting is you said something earlier, this whole notion of availability.
Yeah.
And we have to make ourselves available. We talked about we don't get to pick the assignments. And one of the things, Pew, that I've wanted to remind the team and the audience, those who show up, it's about being available and what that means every day. And you know for yourself, because you've talked about having to be present and having to show up sometimes when you didn't feel like it. Those burning, like, I remember, I never thought about this, but you were the one who told me. You said, Cutler, those lights are hot. And you're moving on the stage, you're moving on the platform with those hot lights. But Pew, it reminds me that every day we have got to show up and we have to be accountable and we have to be present and we have got to be available. We've got to make ourselves available.
To learn. I say this to a lot of the new artists that are coming up. It's fine that you have skill and you have runs and you have roots, but it's not about your ability, it's about your availability. And another thing is God really doesn't really call the equipped, he equips those that he calls. And so you have to be in a place of availability for God to even empower you with really the power and the equipment that you need to do what you're called to do in the earth.
Wow. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I want to take us back on the journey for just a moment. There's some things that I've said, and I see some of the passengers are put it in the chat. When we first started, I presented this book when I'm overwhelmed, and I want to, since this is anniversary, I just want to sort of give some history.
Let me see that. You know, I know all the books by the suits.
By the suits, right?
I almost know the year about the suit.
But by the suits, but and you'll remember this when I wrote that book, that's the one where I felt, wow, this is my breakthrough moment.
Yeah,
I really get to present my gifts to the world. I get to do all of that, and I had scheduled readings across the country. I think I had at least 4 or 5 readings across the country. And remember, I broke my foot.
Yeah.
And everything came to a screeching halt. Everything came to a screeching halt. And I had to cancel. And I could not understand. That was the one book that I know God told me to write. And I couldn't understand why he would tell me to write a book about being overwhelmed and how to handle life in its most intense moments. And then I break my foot and I can't get the message out. But then 2 years later, I had this awesome ability, this awesome opportunity to present this book on a platform that is larger than I could ever have imagined. And for me, and they're asking what is my takeaway, my one takeaway from this particular book, you all, my greatest takeaway and quote from this book is that God promised that he would not do a half-handed job with my life.
Yeah.
He promised that he would not leave me undone. You've probably heard me say that several times. Yeah. And that is so true for everybody who's joining tonight, everybody who's listening. Whenever you have a promise for fulfillment, whenever you have a promise for victory, and I mentioned it earlier, remember what he told you. Remember what you know to be true down in your heart. Remember, and you hold on to that. And so Ernest said earlier, you know, this quote, how can we sing a strange song? How can we sing Zion's song in a strange land? Well, when you have a promise like that, it's all about how can you not? How can you not share what you know to be true? So man, that book took me through. It really did. It helped me.
That thing is so powerful.
Yeah, yeah, you definitely remember that one because when you showed up in DC, you were like, your foot is broke.
Other place, right? Wow.
And I said because you had to show up at our alma mater, but you were over at the divinity school because you had to
Yeah.
speak there. And
Yeah.
I said I can't get to the event,
Sure did.
but I'll stop by just to say hi. And I don't think I told you at the time, but I showed up in my car and I said you got to come to the drive. I parked
Yeah.
on the sidewalk and I said you got to just come down and just say hi. And you're like, aren't you going to get out of the car? Do you remember that?
I couldn't believe it. I was like, you are always on the go and go. I mean, doing everything. And it's like, wow, God had you to just sit still for a season.
I had to sit still, man. I had to sit
And you're
still.
still doing this, just going and teaching. And what are you hopping in? Like you on a scooter? I mean,
That's right. And I was on that scooter teaching at Howard.
yeah, you never stopped.
Yep, I didn't stop, but I just learned to slow down. But what I've discovered, one of my takeaways through this pandemic, and I often say that we have to build community, we have to maintain connectivity, and I think that's what we've done. And sometimes, if I may be transparent as I often try to be, for me it's been an emotional journey.
Yeah.
And but my friends, and you know them, I call them my triplets, Devin and one who are also my producers. They said to me one day, Cutler, whether you know it or not, you have started rendering a service.
Yeah.
And the service that you're rendering is doing good to the people that you're offering it to. And I heard them and I knew that they wouldn't necessarily steer me wrong. But there were times when I thought, oh, okay. And we don't chase. I'm not about chasing numbers. I don't believe in chasing numbers. I believe in. Here I go again with all these quotes. I don't believe in chasing numbers, but I do believe in chasing purpose. And because I went after purpose rather than the numbers, there was always somebody who at some point said something that encouraged me. One of my cousins, and she's a follower. She's on tonight. I won't call her name, but when I tell the story, she would know that I'm talking about her. Her mom passed during this, since we've been in this pandemic, and since she's been online following. And her mom passed, and she said to me, cousin, I want you to keep on doing this. It doesn't matter who shows up, and it doesn't matter how many shows up, because you're making a difference in somebody's life. And she said that while her mom, my aunt, that while her mom was ill, she said, tuning into you encouraged me. And you've buried both parents. I've buried my dad. And for me to hear that something can encourage you in a moment like that, she has no idea until now how much that spoke to me. Wow. How much that moved me and pushed me, and how much that motivated me. Can you talk about anything during the pandemic, Pugh, where you received any unexpected motivation?
Yeah, like I said, I was online and I was just talking to up and coming artists, and they were like, we really want to do what it is that you do, and we just watched you and your kid. We watched you, how you moved around, and you were we would see you somewhere on Saturday, and then you would be back in some local church on Sunday. And I just thank God. I said, well, you never know who's watching you. And the first scripture that popped in my mind is the Bible says, "Let the older teach the younger." And a lot of times we talk about how problematic this generation is, but have we taken the time to really pour into them and give instruction, give some testimony of how that is done? And it really convicted me. I was like, wow, God is really speaking to me about, have you done your part to really empower the next level of artists and the next level of worship? So I went through this segment that I call the Worship Leaders Lounge. And when you come into that lounge, we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, the indifferent, and how you're different and what you bring to the table. And so God really, that was unexpected, because I'm thinking I'm going to lay back. I'm going to just really do a lot of digital content, go to close the doors of my house. I don't have to deal with anybody. I can
Mm-hmm.
basically shut the world off and just release my content. But the people start coming to me and pulling on me from social media and inboxing me. And so that just says to me that the call that God puts on us, you and I both, you as an evangelist and preaching what you do, there is an irrevocable call that God has placed upon us, and the weight and the gravity of that call comes in moments like this, when the world
Yeah.
is in chaos, and we're dealing with a racial divide, social injustice, we're dealing with an economic downturn, we're dealing with the pandemic. So God said, it is in these moments, in these dark moments, where I need you to be light and to be salt. And so
Yeah.
that kind of just that came out of nowhere. I'm like, I'm in the comfort of my home in my underwear, and the top is covered, but there's not what. And God said, "You are yet on display. I have you yet on display for my glory." So I would
Wow.
say that that's what it was.
And I think that's so beautiful, because my takeaway and then translation for the audience who's watching, when I think about that, it just sort of reminds me that in these moments,
Yeah.
look for those nuggets, look for those twinkling stars, because they are there, and they've shown up. And sometimes you have to look for the moment,
Come on.
and when you look back and you say, you know what, that was not a completely dark moment.
Right.
Even if I am in a pit,
Woo.
light still can get in. I just have to look up.
Just look up.
Because what happens so often is that when we are in these dark moments and we're in these pits and we're digging, trying to dig our way out, and we forget that if we just look up, it doesn't mean that I'm springboarding out of what I'm in the moment, but it means that my perspective of where I am can change. It has the possibility to change. Yeah, I'm still in the pit, and yes, I'm still digging. But you know what? Instead of just doing this, I take a moment and I do that. And
Wow.
that gives me a hope. And it makes me say, dig
Jesus.
a little harder. Keep on digging. Don't stop digging. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
really has just, I mean, he has unfolded so much new revelation. And some of these scriptures we've read and we've heard these accounts in the Bible, but it's like it has really refined and brings brand new revelation, knowledge. That you were talking about being in the pit, and the Lord dealt with me, with the people, about being in two places in one time. Revelation chapter 1, verse 10, it talks about how really John the Revelator said, I was in the spirit on the Lord's day. And when you look at that pericope and you think, you never left the Isle of Patmos. So physically, you never left the Isle of Patmos, but he said, I was in the spirit. So that lets me know spiritual, you in two places at one time, at all times. When you got this irrevocable call on your life, you're in the valley, just start looking for some lilies if you're in that valley, because I'm right there. You can be in two places at one time, mountaintop, valley, low, wherever you are. You just got to listen for my voice. I'm always speaking. And I was like, I'm 55 years old this year. I know these things, but they rung true in this pandemic like never before. Perhaps it was because all of the distractions, and we turned down all those voices that were so loud in past times. And I just feel like I've really grown in this pandemic. I've
Mhm.
gotten, as you would say, I've gotten to know me, but God and I have really come a whole nother dimension.
Wow. Man, that is so good. And you use that word call. And I thought during this pandemic, when we talk about the word call, so many people would think that we're talking about just call to preach and all that kind of stuff. But we are called to so many things.
There you go.
I think sometimes we're called to silence. I
Wow.
think that we're sometimes called to peace. And I think if anything, during this pandemic, some of us have been called to personal peace, to be at peace with ourselves, to be at peace with the habitat that we're creating, that we're building, the space that where we decide that when this is over, this is how I want to live.
Yes.
So some of us have gotten an opportunity to re-pour and relay the foundations, so that when
Absolutely.
this pandemic is over, I've got a new foundation. I've poured the cement, and this is how I want to live. I want to live in this space that's called peace, this space that's called serenity, and all of that. So if I could just encourage people from just what you just mentioned, when you are called to that, listen and answer it, and go for those moments of peace. I want to throw one more quote at you, man, because I enjoyed this conversation, but I want to throw this other quote at you. Let's see. Your life is going to testify whether you want it to or not. That's a quote. Your life is going to testify whether you want it to or not. Your first reaction.
I think our lives are letters that are read by men, just like the Bible. The way I live, people are watching. When those people came on my social media and knew all the accounts of what I had done, I was like, well, Lord, did they see the things that I did that didn't bring you glory? Are letters that are read by men.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. This whole notion of it reminds me that this whole notion of well, we both grew up in southern towns and southern homes, and I know your mom said it too. Actions speak louder than words.
That's what she said.
I know Miss Lily said it. Actions speak louder than words. It's one of those things when these quotes. You all, maybe they just keep coming because it's anniversary time. So I hope you all enjoy these quotes. And it may be in the book, I don't even know. But I posted and I wrote somewhere that the greatest form of hypocrisy is when your mouth condemns what your actions condone.
Oh.
Yeah, the greatest form of hypocrisy.
I remember that billboard.
It may be in the billboard, I'm not sure. I'm not
volume
sure.
2, baby.
And if it's not, I got to write it. But it's true.
It's so good.
Yeah, the greatest form of
you got the tape.
The greatest form of hypocrisy is when your mouth condemns what your actions condone. And you in other words, you say it's wrong, but you do it. And you for example, you can't tell me not to talk about my brother or my sister, but every time I turn around, I hear you gossiping about people and backstabbing and assassinating people's character, those that you call friends. And so there is no parallel between your actions and your word. You know what I call it? Trying to follow people like that, Pugh, gives me mental vertigo. It gives me it makes me dizzy. I can't follow you.
You're right.
Yeah.
You know what this book is? My grandmother, and I know we get to time as far as spending. My grandmother died of she passed away with Alzheimer's, and what we did was we would put things on her mirror. Take your medicine. You are great. Don't forget to live. And this billboard to me, this particular book that you did, these are reminders, practical stuff. A lot of providential and spiritual too, but a lot of practical truths that we have to continue to reiterate just to stay normal. So the necessity is what I'm saying. The necessity of this book in this hour, in this time, we have to rehearse past victories. We have to remember if God did it before, he'll do it again. We have to read that billboard to say, remember, it ain't what you go through, it's how you go through. You know, you have so many things that keep us grounded. And so I'm grateful for you, but I don't know. I hear a volume 2 coming, Rev. Volume 2.
I don't know about all of that, but I am thankful. I'm so thankful for the opportunity to have written this book. And solitude, I'm okay with solitude. So it has worked for me. I mean, this book came out of in a pandemic.
Yeah.
I took the opportunity. I took a couple of courses at Harvard's Divinity School. So I went online and I did several things. So I sort of thrive in solitude. It gives me a chance to get to know me a little better, and I hope it has given me the opportunity to sharpen who I am, so that when I talk to my friends and family, my brothers and my sisters, I can give them something that doesn't have the rust on it.
That's good.
Because when we sharpen ourselves and get the rust off of us, then we present to somebody a more crisp way of seeing, a more crisp way of being, and a more crisp way of hearing. As you mentioned, hearing. We give people an opportunity to be sharp as well. as well. One more quote. I gotta get to this
Yes,
other
sir.
quote. Now I hope that you're thinking about what you're going to sing.
Oh, I got you.
Okay, all right. I hope you're thinking about what you're going to sing, because I'm going to do something. I wasn't sure if I was going to do it, but you asked, and I'm going to do it. So the last quote that I want to share, it says, "Even when you can't tell it all, at least tell enough."
Oh, Lord.
But wait a minute. I'll tell you. I'll tell you where I get that from. And for those of you who may not know, in case you haven't read his bio, he's not just Earnest Pugh is not just a singer. So I would never put the word "just" in front of anything when it comes to him. So he's not just a singer. He gets up there and he ministers the word, but when he does it, you all understand that he has studied. So his comes from a very structured study at Howard School of Divinity.
Listen.
So when I throw these things out to him, I may sometimes have to give him the reference. This comes from when John said, when he was writing about Jesus, he said, not even all of the books in the world, the libraries, could not contain all of who he is or what he has done. But I think about John having said that, and I'm thinking, wow, John, you're right. Not all of the books could contain everything that he's done or all that he is to you, but you gave us just enough.
Just enough.
If you didn't give us anything except for John 3:16, for God so loved the world, John, you gave us just enough. So I think, Pugh, sometimes that we many of us have a whole lot to say, and we wonder, what should I say? How should I say it? And what do I do here? But this is a moment where I want to remind all of the listeners, all of the followers, that if you don't get a chance to tell everything, say at least say just enough.
Yeah.
Do just enough. Be just enough, so that you make a difference in at least one person's life. And that's where I was going with that. You may not be able to reach everybody that you want, but if you reach that one person, if you reach those few people, because you don't get a chance to define your assignment, but say enough, do enough, be enough, make a difference in at least one person's life. So, Pugh, that's really where I was going with that quote. Wow. So now you can tell me if it resonates with you.
Of course it resonates. It's like, look, if I don't get to do nothing else, at a concert, if I give an invitation and I introduce you to Jesus, that's my reason for coming. If I can just do that, I may not sing your favorite song, I may not hit your favorite note, but if I can introduce you to Jesus, and if I can make him smile, I've accomplished, my purpose for coming.
Indeed, you have, my friend. And I don't want to take up much more of your time, but you've been more than gracious. And so let me ask you this. Before we go, I'm going to ask you if you would favor all of us. So you all get ready. If you would favor us, you've got to sing something. So
this song that I'm getting ready to record on a record here, and I want to give y'all just a little bit. Let me know when you're ready.
Yes.
So a friend of mine, Nate Bean, wrote this song. It just says he'll never, ever leave you. Hold 1 second. All right. So, can you hear the music? I've been young and now I'm old, but I've never seen the righteous forsaken or a seed beg for bread. Oh, listen. No, never. It's real simple. No, never. This is for somebody in the middle of your storm. Listen. He will never leave you alone. No, never. Oh, never. Hey, he will never leave you alone. No, he will never No, 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 never. That's just a little tease, 30 seconds. That's all you get. It's just, I have to let the saints know he'll never leave you. In the middle of your storm, you better know that he'll never leave you alone.
That is absolutely amazing. And we should not covet the gifts of our friends and our brothers and our sisters. but
do it one of these times, Cutler. You just get ready.
Okay, sure. And I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm so thankful, man, for so many people, and what I've done. I can't even adequately reflect on this year. I know I said that I wanted some of the producers. One of the producers is in the both of the producers are they're chatting and they're here, and I'm so thankful for them because one of the things that this year has taught me, speaking of we're never alone.
Yeah.
One of the things that the year has taught me is that God sometimes shows up through the people in our lives.
Oh wow.
So while we're so busy thinking that we're looking for
one.
There we go. I brought this in because what I want to show is some of the producers. God, you remember? So God has shown up through these producers, and this is my way. I want to thank them. So what I'm going to do? Let me see if I can start this all over again. I brought this quote in. I brought this in. So this is just my homage to my producers to say thank you to them because while this is just a concept, it is these producers who helped me and they reminded me that I'm never alone. And God really showed up through them. So you all, they're going to join me Thursday, but this is just a tease. All right.
Why do you have a clock?
We just finished the show talking about circles, people's circles, and I got a circle because they want to hear us talk about circles.
One, but we were talking about relationships and people.
And did.
See? Thank you, Copycat.
I don't know what
you're not going to have a circle and I'm not going to have a circle. You thought. And I'll go with the circle. I'll go.
Listen.
See mine? See mine?
Yeah.
See mine?
Mine's beginning.
But you see mine? You said you want to talk about circles.
And then? And then? Right.
Yes.
I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do us. Him, I mean. And by us, I mean Juan.
I love them.
I could not have done this without them. I couldn't have done it without them. So I am so thankful for them being here. But Pugh, man, my friend, I want to say thank you. And while you were here, you asked how I was doing with since my dad passed. I want to share. I often close with a poem.
I love it.
So I'm going to read this poem that I wrote. Mm-hmm. I was in a very dark place once my dad died. Mm-hmm. You've been there, so it was very dark. And I share this because I want to say to the audience and to the family members and to those who are listening and the followers that in your darkest moment, sometimes you've got to look for the light. I talked about being in a pit and forgetting to look up. Just look up. And you may ask, Cutler, what does that mean? It sounds, poetic, but practically, what does that mean? Sometimes you've just got to say to people, I'm not in a good space. And when you say I'm not in a good space, that means I need light. Learn to be honest with the moment. Learn to look for the light by asking for help, by being honest with who you are, where you are in any given moment, and understand that whatever you're going through, your faith has an answer for it. Your mind and your mouth may not have an answer, but I do know that have faith in your faith. Wow. Have belief in your belief. and you will find, like I did, that there is an answer. I wanted to write poetry. I wanted to write a song. I wanted to be able to do something. And it was such a dark moment. But one morning, when I decided that I had cried as much as I could cry, I couldn't cry anymore. I said, I've got to get through this.
Wow.
And Pugh, I tell you, it was because I realized that this fan base and family right here on the Let's Talk to Cutler program, because when they show up and they were enjoying the poems when I would get to and I would read, and I said, I need to be able to write something else. I need to know that I have something else to give.
Yeah.
And that's where I was, needing to know that I had something else to give.
That's
and
good.
so what I'm going to share with you all, though, this is probably one of the most personal pieces that I've ever written. I want to say thank you all and let you know that it was because of you all that I was able to write this after my dad passed. And it is called The Years Made All Things Well. So before I read it, I will say to my friend Pugh, thank you, man, so much for helping me to celebrate this 1 year. You know, we talked about this on some of our travels, how we would do different things. I had no idea, but I just believe you. And it's coming to fruition. You're going to hang around, of course, after we go off the air. But I publicly want to say thank you, because for as much as the world knows you, you have never stopped being my friend. And so for that, I want to say thank you. I couldn't imagine celebrating this anniversary without you. So now you're the most visiting person here, and I expect that to continue. You all go out, get his project, get the book, get the CD, all of that kind of stuff. Make sure you join me Thursday, because Thursday, let me just put out a plug for Thursday. Some of you all have seen me on Auntie's Advice. Over on Auntie's Advice. She helped me. She mentored me when it comes to this whole YouTube piece. So Auntie will be here Thursday.
Oh, shucks.
Auntie from Auntie's Advice is going to be here Thursday. So you all make sure that you show up Thursday. Let's see, the producers are actually going to show up Thursday, and I'm going to talk about some. I want to put together some snippets of during the year, because how can I do all this in just one show or two shows? So I am so thankful. For all of you all. And Pugh, and I have to tell you, it is amazing how so many people, they have these gifts and they don't mind sharing. And like you, who shared and told me this stuff that I need to do, you were one of the persons who said, Cutler, you need to do this. The reason that I couldn't imagine celebrating without Auntie is because when I started doing YouTube, she said, let me show you how it's done. Let me mentor you. And to think that people like the two of you, I've been completely blessed to have people like you and like Auntie in my life. So I just had to, at least two people that I could celebrate. And there are so many more. So I want to go off this evening, you all, by sharing this poem with you. And it is called The Years Made All Things Well. I will try. Let me take a sip of tea.
Try not to get emotional.
Try not to get so emotional that I can't read this poem. So let me just read, and this is how we'll end. The first time in never was the first time ever I had been without words. No rhythm, no rhyme. I sat in darkness hoping to find the next stanza, the next line. The next time I would be ready, I would hold my heart hostage and keep my mind steady. I would toss my pain into an abyss, and forgiveness would miss the opportunity to sabotage my sorrow and redefine my tomorrow. For the first time in never was the first time that I had ever just sat still, like steel, hard and cold, while my anxiety was bold and heartless enough to be real. I sat wanting to feel and wanting you to refill the gap that perhaps you had created. I sat wondering if I would ever move again, wondering if the breath or the love would ever ooze again, out or in. It really didn't matter, because I sat and got sadder. I wept, but I couldn't get any madder. So finally, I gave thanks. For the first time in never was the first time ever that I stood inside of you, colored inside the lines that you drew, hope beyond the boundaries that you knew, love beyond barriers that we both broke through. I morphed into you, and I saw history through your eyes. I gave you my dreams, and you saw the future through my tears. And you trusted that the years had made all things well. And they had. They did. For the first time in never was the first time ever that you truly left forever. You left without leaving. For the first time in never, forever really feels like forever. I want to say thank you all for sharing this time, for sharing this space, for sharing my heart, for sharing in this celebration, for celebrating what we have done for at least 1 year. One of the producers, I think they both says 1 year and so many more to go. Would you all help me once again appreciate my good friend, Dr. Earnest Pugh. I will see you all Thursday. Let's keep on building community, maintaining connectivity. Keep your heads up, keep your hopes up, keep your hearts up. Stay safe, stay sane. From my heart to yours, please know that there is much love. See you all Thursday.